Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us at the Microsoft Fabric UK user group. I'm your host, Leon Gordon, and I'm here with my co-host, Pragati Jain.
Hey everyone. Hi Leon, how are you today?
Very well, thank you, Pragati. How about yourself? I know that you've been very, very busy recently.
Yeah, it's been busy times, I think, at work, but yeah, everything under control, I guess. And
I
yeah,
was talking more
quite.
about traveling.
Oh, traveling. Okay, yeah. I just literally forget about traveling because it's too much this year. But yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, if you're talking about Path Summit, it was amazing. Got wonderful feedback about my free con and the general session that I delivered there, and especially networking because some people I literally never met in my life. And
Yes,
then I got an opportunity to meet people from the SQL Server side as well. So yeah, amazing. I'm still jet lagged actually this week, but yeah, trying to get back to UK time. I still wake up
fantastic.
in the morning. Yeah. So,
Well,
but yeah,
welcome
it's
back.
going good. Yeah, I'm back now. At least no travel for next 2 months, I guess, at least.
Well, fingers crossed. We're looking forward to Christmas. But with that being said,
Definitely.
everybody joining us today, please do, as always, let us know where you're joining us from. Whereabouts in the world are you today? For those of you that are stateside, like Belinda, our speaker today, happy Thanksgiving to you all. And I hope you're having a fantastic time. So, with that being said, today's session is going to be another fantastic session, and it's going to be in regards to transition from data viewing to data analysis. And as I've mentioned, we have a very special guest with us today, Belinda Allen, who is a Microsoft MVP and MCT as well. So, Belinda, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for
Welcome.
inviting me. I am so excited to be here with you all. So thank you.
And like I say, happy Thanksgiving again.
Thank you very
Happy
much.
Thanksgiving, everyone. Yeah.
Yep. And Thanksgiving to everyone else that is viewing from the United States. I'm glad you joined us. Thanksgiving, I was just telling Leon and Prajati before we started, my favorite holiday because everyone has these lofty goals for every other holiday, even Memorial Day, like you want to have a cookout or you want to go somewhere fun and where it's nice and warm and you want sunshine and there's always the risk that it could rain. So there's always something that gives you a little bit of letdown based on your expectations. But for Thanksgiving, the whole expectation is eat too much, take a nap. And that's easy to achieve. So this is why it is my favorite session. All right, I am going to share my screen now. Give me just a moment. And I'm going to go ahead and get started because I am super excited. And
Yeah, we are excited for your session, Belinda.
thanks. And please forgive the mess behind me. Am moving into. We're already living in it, but we're doing some work on it as well. I just moved into a new house within the last month, and I have a cold, so I'm got a little bit much going on. Can you see my screen?
Oh,
Okay.
I can do. Let me just
yeah.
add it
Oh,
to
there we go.
the
Okay.
session, and we'll leave you to it, Belinda. Enjoy the
Oh,
session.
okay.
Enjoy.
Thanks. So this is a very topic that is very near and dear to my heart. I know Prajati and I have some similar ideas about this, so I feel like hey, I'm in good company, so it must be something that's important. But it's all about analyzing data as opposed to just looking at data. A little bit about me: I live in a tiny little town in South Carolina called Alcaloo. In fact, the entire town is less than half the size of the building I lived in New York City. So I think that is hysterical. And the whole building could fit in on my current yard. So almost in my backyard, but not quite the backyard. So it needs a little bit of the front as well. I've been working with Microsoft related products and have been a Microsoft since they purchased GP for more than 30 years now. I'm an MVP, a Microsoft certified training. I've authored some books on business intelligence in GP. And the interesting thing about me is I love hobbies and I love learning. I am dangerous when it comes to something new, some kind of new hobby to learn. So, whoops, that's me. And let me go back. I clicked the wrong button there. I do want to also mention that today is day 4. I have, after a long time working for myself. I am excited to say that I have a new position now with iLink Digital here in the US. And so super stoked about that. Today is day 4 for me. So I'm quite happy to be spending it here with you. I've mentioned that this topic of analyzing data is near and dear to my heart. In fact, it's been my topic of choice it was in 2022 that I decided, Power BI user adoption is it. Then I realized I needed to expand that to adoption of analytics. And so I kept it as my topic for 2023 as well. I am unsure what I'm going to be have as my primary topic next year. It may still be this. It may still be enablement, because my new position at Digital iLink is Director of Enablement. And that's predominantly for Fabric and also the Power Platform. So I will probably keep it, but it won't hurt my feelings at all. So what am I meaning by user adoption? What are we really talking about in this particular case? We're talking about reviewing data versus analyzing data. And this is right now, you've probably heard it yourself. Someone hands you an Excel report and says, I want a report that looks just like this. Or I want a report that looks like a big table and have all of my data on there. And that is just reviewing data, not analyzing data. And to understand what analyzing data means, I have a slide here about data analysis as well, and particularly about storytelling, because we want our data to talk to us. We don't want to have to peruse through a lot of data. But there are 5 categories of analytics. There's descriptive, which is what most people are used to when they're talking about those big Excel reports. These are things that have happened in the past. What has happened? Then we have diagnostic. And diagnostic is, why did that happen? And that's something that not enough people look at. They just look at what happened in the past, and they're not trying to figure out necessarily why it happened, or at least not letting their data help them tell the story of why it happened, so that they can make better, more informed decisions. There's also predictive analysis. Okay, so we know what will happen. We know why it happened. Now we want to know what's going to happen next. And so there are more and more predictive tools going on. And with the growth of AI, that is just going to continue to be something that is prevalent inside of Power BI and the Power BI related products. Then there's prescriptive. And how can I make something change? So I know I want something to happen, but how can I make it change? And so that is quite a big deal as well. And then finally, we have cognitive. And cognitive is getting more into like the things that you can't touch, and or the touchy-feely parts of how we analyze our data. Sentiment analysis is a big one for cognitive, but we're wanting to also take all the things that we've learned, the things we want to do, the changes we'll make, and if we make that change, what will happen? Then cognitive fits. That's where cognitive comes into the Power BI space. So if we look back at this reviewing data versus analyzing data, the reviewing data is basically descriptive in nature. So we're only looking at what has happened. If you're looking at a big giant spreadsheet of data, I am almost positive you're looking at descriptive information, and you're missing out on all of the other elements. The diagnostic, the prescription, the prescriptive, the cognitive all come within analyzing our data. And that's so important, because one of the biggest goals of analyzing any data is that you could take actions on the data. What is the data telling you to do? What is the data guiding you to do? If you're just looking at descriptive, you're taking actions on something that's already passed, something that may or may not even happen again. There are all kinds of things going on in the world that descriptive isn't quite cutting it, especially as we look at things now, and we are still working our way out of COVID. Those several years of COVID, that dramatically changed everything. So if we're looking at that descriptive data, we may not have a good analysis there. So the first thing I want to talk about when I talk about using analysis, that the data modeling is absolutely critical. I don't want anyone sitting back. If you've heard of Microsoft Copilot, especially Copilot for Power BI, I don't want you thinking, oh, the Copilot is going to do everything for me. That's not quite the way it works. We still have to organize the data and prepare the data. So the data modeling aspect is absolutely critical. In fact, the bulk of your time should be spent doing data modeling. According to Microsoft, 85 to 90% of your time should be in data modeling. You get a good data model, Copilot's going to really make a difference in your business, but you still have to do the work for the data modeling. And so, what can you do to get ready for co-piloting? Again, model or co-piloting. I guess that's a new word for me. Maybe it's not even a word, but you know what? As of now, I've said it twice. I'm going to say it a third time and make it a word. Co-piloting. Okay, so to get ready to start your journey co-piloting, this is a visual that a friend of mine shared with me, Mark Wiley. If you happen to be listening, I'll give you credit for it. According to another friend of mine, Chris Wagner, I'm only about showing this one more time away before I can stop giving you credit for it, Mark. But you get your data. It's like a big giant box of Legos, and you might sort your data, and you could arrange your data, and you can even visually present your data. But it's not going to be speaking to you, even in this visual present, not in a really powerful way. You need to go through and do analysis of it and evaluate it more so we can let the data tell us a story about not just where it's been, but where it's going. So one of the best things that you can do is start looking at your models and seeing if they're actively modeled for in a good performance way for Q&A. Q&A has been out there a long time and not enough people use it. I've been on the Q&A bandwagon for a long time, and people who use it absolutely love it. So I'm talking about the Bing-like experience where you have a visual where you can just type in a question and a visual appears. And if you model for Q&A, you're going to be in a great shape for Copilot with your data. So a couple things about modeling for Q&A, the adding missing relationships. You want to be looking at all of the relationships and make sure that they all exist. That's just good modeling in general. Rename your tables and columns. Okay, this is a lot of dev people I see who are now doing dev work and modeling work in Power BI. They still try to get away with having a column name or a table name that has no spaces in it. And so embrace the space. Put those spaces in. Don't name your tables like dim customer and fact sales. Don't do that, right? When you see people doing that on YouTube videos and in blogs, they're doing it for you to understand which kind of table they're looking at, not just the name. So don't put that in your real model. There's no place for it there. Use real column names, real fields. Q&A needs that. It doesn't know what dim sales means. I mean, you could put in a bunch of synonyms for it, but why? Why not just give it a name that is understandable? And we'll look at that, and because it's also important not only for that, it'll make your titles that get auto-generated easier because they'll have the spaces in them. There'll be things that make sense. As a matter of fact, when I go into Power Query, I have three things. I owe it 3 rules. Belinda's 3 rules. Rule number 1, you change the query to something that makes sense to the end user. Put those spaces in. Say consultants, not just dim consult, right? Make it something logical that makes sense. At that point, I say Belinda's rule number 2 is remove any unnecessary column. I use that remove columns option that will actually perform the M function of remove other columns. And if I am not sure whether or not I need it, I exclude it. And the reason is I keep a smaller set of fields. It's really easy when you use that tool to go back and add something and include it. So I try to start out without having too many fields. I don't want to confuse anybody. And then the third rule is making sure that the data types are correct. Okay, so this is really important. And we want to take the time to also go in and change the default aggregation for certain things like years. We don't want to summarize our years because Power or Q&A is going to look at the names of columns. It's going to look at the names of tables or queries, and it's going to look at data in the individual field, and it's going to look at the type of data. So these are things that we really want to be alert to. And if you have a year field there, if it's called a year, it could probably interpret it, but it might also need to look at the aggregation method too. And so this is why the default aggregation method. So this is why we want to take care of that. Add data category for each date in geography column. And by this, I mean, I'll start with geography. If it's a geographical field, go into the data category in the formatting and set it as a city or a country or province or longitude and latitude, even better. That way, Power BI also knows, hey, this is a date field, an actual valid date field. And if you have a capacity or capability of having maps on your visuals, that it'll take advantage of using those as well. Again, your date, make sure you have that marked as date. Make sure you have a calendar table or a day table in there. Don't use those date hierarchies. I'm not gonna, you've probably heard all the reasons why you don't want to use the out-of-the-box hierarchies. That's something I turn off on mine automatically, but make sure everything is set. And if it's in the date table, then Q&A could figure out quarter means this is a quarter of the year. Choose a sort method for each column, for the relevant columns, especially if you're dealing with things like months, sorting alphabetically versus chronologically. For months, you would just have to sort it by a different column, the month number or the fiscal period column. But make sure you have your sorts right, because out of the box, it'll usually, a chart will usually sort descending with the highest dollar value first. And that may not be the way you want to see it, especially if you're looking at years, for example. And then you must normalize a lot of your data. And I have a lot of demos to show, so don't worry, I'm not going to show you to death. But here is this one, eliminate portioning. This is where we have a book tour. We have a tour, the book name, the author, and then every column for if Maria Dawn was going to go to a fourth city, there'd be a fourth column called City 4. Don't try to do the big flat table. Basically, go for the star schema where you're defining every table as either a fact, what you're measuring, or a dimension, which is basically a way to filter. If you say by or for, and that's usually a dimension. So here we can go through a book tour, and I could say for book tour 45, or show me all the cities for book tour 45. So these are the cities, or how many cities are there in book tour 45? We're measuring 45. We come over here, we could see the different cities and count them up. So this is really important to eliminate the portioning by doing some form of union. Property bags as well on the right this time, just to shake things up and make you have to look around. I have a customer number, and then I have, like you can see customer number 1, I have listed 4 times because I have 4 fields for that one customer, and then I have a value across the top. This is a terrible way for Q&A to work. You'll notice it's like these are just typical modeling rules as well, but they're really important. So the property is the age, so we have property bags. So instead now we have one single row for customer 1, and we can see a column for each one of those that's unique. We sometimes need to split format like the full address here. So you can see if we go over to the needs work side, we have an address, and then we have the country over here, or the city and the country. But here we made it ready by Q&A. We kept the full address in case we wanted to use that, but we have split it up so that we can see exactly if we wanted to say how many customers do we have in London, we could easily see that information. Creating new tables for multi-value columns. So over here on the left this time, again, just to shake it up, we have perhaps an album, and then we have the album name, the genre. And if there's more than one composer for that particular album or work, I guess this is maybe a song. Yeah, this is a song, Summer 69. Okay, so a song, we have multiple composers. Again, we'd want to do something similar to what we did earlier. With the cities, we have each ID for the song, and we can see all of the composers listing. This way will actually run faster, and Power BI can get what's going on, because if our Q&A can get what's going on, if I came over and said, hey, show me Brian Williams, if it looks at the composer list, it would have to do a little bit of fuzzy logic, because technically this row is Brian Adams, column Jim Balance. So it could get very confusing. And occasionally you need to deformalize data. So in this case, down at the bottom, we had flights, and then we had airports listed. And so we could see the departure time and the departure airport, or the departure airport rather, ID. And then we would connect over here and then get the airport name. But we also have an arrival airport ID. So we have an inactive one. Q&A can't read on inactive relationships. So this isn't necessarily going to work. A better method might be to come in. You could either have arrival airports and departure airports, or you can add in, if there's the only addition is the name, then you might want to do a merge and get the name in here. So occasionally denormalizing is what you want to do. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of demo type stuff. This is something I encourage everyone to use. This is basically just a Power BI page. I called it my dashboard. It's not a dashboard. I know that, but you know how everyone we work with, every report they call a dashboard, right? So technically this is a report page. And I like to add in 4 Q&A visuals. And I like to control the questions that are being asked, so I can go in and see that. I even will occasionally put slicers in so that I can get the interactive experience using this. So let's go ahead and take a quick demo of this. Now let's see if I can get to the right spot. There we are. Okay, so I'm in an app, a Power BI app right now, and I have my report listed here. So I'm going to come in and go to my chart, and this is basically how what it looks like. In fact, let me come in here and let me open this report in the workspace so I could go to edit. So all I basically did here is I came in and said, okay, I just added the Q&A visual. You could also just double click on it if you want to. So if I came over into Q&A here, I could just double click on it and I get a visual. I'll just put that like that. Or I can insert it from over here. And I could even, if I'm in the desktop, go up to, oh gosh, off the top of my head, I'm like, what field is that? Okay, I could go into, let me click right here. And I can go to insert, and then under my AI visual, you could see Q&A. And that's really an important way to go about and think about it as an AI visual. This is not something, this is why I'm taking the time to talk about it. Not enough people look at it as an AI visual. So what's cool about this is I can create my own list, and I could ask the questions of what I want to see. And okay, so I now have this experience as a user where I've created my own page, essentially. And a lot of people say they want, oh, I want to learn Power BI. And what they really want to learn is how to create visuals. And this is an easy way for it. So here I have, what is the total cost by department name? What if I wanted to say total cost and total sales? So I could type that in, and now I can see my total sales going up this way, my total cost across the bottom. So I can see all of these little different spots as to where they are. Now, this is something that I like as a user. This makes me really happy. Actually, let me add in again, by satisfaction. Okay, so now I can see would they recommend it again? So this is something that I'm really interested in keeping. What I could do is come up and use my bookmark, and I could capture the report's current state as a bookmark, or just click on add a bookmark, which is really what it is. And I'll call this my chart. Why not? And I'm going to even make it a default view and save it. Now, every time I come in, it's going to automatically, this page is going to automatically look like this for me. That's okay, because if I ever want to refresh, if I ever want to go back to the default, I click that refresh and reset. Boom. I want to go back to my bookmark. There's my bookmark. I'll select it. Boom. Very simple. This is a great way, because what you're doing is you're giving people the opportunity to explore on their own. You still get this full interactive experience, if you'll see, which is kind of nifty. I'm going to click right there. So that was, looks like tops, really is what it looked like. So you can easily create this powerful scenario for users to evaluate and to analyze on their own. You can even encourage them to ask their own questions. I'm going to go back into the desktop for just a moment to go through these. So there's a reason why I'm going to show you this is we have this, let's see, I don't want to turn it into a standard visual. So I'm going to click on this. You'll have to bear with me. I wish that you would. I am trying to use the, make myself use the on object. You notice I'm using the formatting from here and the visualization pane. Instead of having that additional pane, I have it over here. You could do a little more formatting over here. It's a little weird, but I'm adapting to it, and I like what I see so far. So I could come in and let's see. I want to get to the. Oh, I don't know how to get to the page I want. So there is a Q&A tooling window that I could get to pop up, which normally. I don't want to turn that into a standard visual. So, this is what to get for, there is a page where you can add your own visuals. Let's see. I'm going to show it to you, and I'm not going to worry about that. Let's just do Power BI Q&A. Let's see, tooling. Okay, here we go. We're bound to see the window here. And we do. So saved by Microsoft. Okay, so we could come in and right here, suggest your own questions. Do note this, that once you add your first question in, that all of the default questions that come right out of the box from Insights will disappear. So you want to make sure you have several questions before you add your own questions. You could review questions. These are things that people are asking across all of your data modules, or all of your data models and reports. So this is something you want to pay attention to, because it's telemetry in a little lightweight way. You see what people are wanting to know, and then you might could be ahead of the game and hand it to them. Some of them, if you don't tell them you have that capability, they'll think you're a miracle worker. It only keeps like 28 days out there, but it'd be cool to, if someone asked a question and then you hand them a report the next day and said, or even said, hey, I went back and added a column because I felt like it might be important. They might be like, wow, you read my mind. But you could also teach phrases to Q&A. You could add synonyms. Here's, again, the suggest questions. And so forth. So this is the tooling window that I am not sure exactly how to pull this up on object yet, but in the real power, or the other way where you have the filter pane, there is another option that appears right here, and I have a feeling I just need to turn that tooling on. I might have it under, I'm going to look. And I think I'm done looking. Okay, so we'll find out where it is. and get that back to you. But the fact that you can really do a lot with this is pretty amazing. So definitely model your data for Power or for Q&A. Okay, so let me minimize this, go back to my slide. A couple things on Q&A notes, and this are probably, I'm almost positive they're going to be part of Copilot, although I haven't heard anyone tell me that either as a general information or as a non-disclosure information. It's just a guess of mine. The Q&A visual integrates with Office and Bing to attempt to match unrecognized common words, but go ahead and try to populate synonyms in there if you can. They're super simple to populate. You could do it right on the modeling tab as well. Review questions, remember they only last for 28 days. Any field hidden or table hidden is not used in the Q&A. In management terms, you could only review or delete right now. So if you train it to say that a certain phrase, like I'll use the word worth meaning sales, which would be kind of silly, but I would have to delete it. I can't retrain it to mean something else. Or if I call my clients Bubba's and I go in and put the synonym in for Bubba's or I train it Bubba's to be, I don't know, sales, then, which is completely nonsense. So I can't go in and edit it. I'd have to delete it and re-add it. Again, adding one question will auto-generate. And then the questions appear in the tooling. Once you add them, the suggested questions, that's the order that they'll appear on the report. Now, there's another part of Power BI that a lot of people aren't using to help analyze data. And this is just with this common bar chart here. So let's take a look. This is going in chronological order. I have the first year all the way to the last year. And what we can do, if we right mouse click, we get this drop down menu, and you should get an analyze option on it. If not, you might want to check to see how that goes. And what it's going to do is whatever column you right mouse click on and say analyze. In this case, it's decrease because I clicked on this year and there was a decrease compared to the column to the left. So it'll always look to the left. If I want to go to how things changed from last year, then I would want to change my sort order in order to accomplish that. So let's go ahead and check out a demo here. And I'm going to come back up. Oh, I'll close that out. Oh, actually, you know what I'm going to do is if Pragati or Leon, if one of you can post that link to this learning page from Microsoft, that would be great. And that way people can look that up since I don't have it available in here right now. Okay.
Absolutely, Belinda. Just while we do that behind the scenes, we did have a question regarding the slides that came in from Raja. Will you be able to share the slides following this session as well?
Yes, I'll make sure and send them to you. I almost did it before, but there wasn't a lot of data in there. So, but there is a good bit, I guess, when I now look at that list.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Sure. Okay. So I wanted to show you, we're going to come in and analyze here. So this is that same graph. I just made it a little bit, or chart. And so 2015 has 181K. 2014 had 246. So there was a substantial drop. If I right mouse click, I have this option to analyze. And I have two options: explain the decrease or find where the distribution is different. And not enough people even know this exists. And this has been out there a long time. And it's pretty darn powerful because it's going to go through and analyze all my data to try to find where the differences are. And the water chart, the waterfall visual is one of my favorite because I'm looking at 2014 here in the blue on the left. On the right, I'm seeing 2014 and 2015. Now, this grid starts at 180,000, which is why the 2015 one is so low, but that makes it easier to see. And so what it's done is it has gone through and showed me like the top 5 items that are some of the items that really made a difference. Now, in this particular case, if I hover over it, and let me see if I've got my zoom on. I can't zoom here. If I hover over it, it's one clothing item, item number 1083, and it had a substantial increase, and the text above it even tells me that, a 700% growth. But these were the biggest contributors, are the ones that had the largest decrease. And especially if I look at this, this 9K one, that's a decline of almost 9% for item number 1098. So I might want to check that information out. And then it used grouping to group everything else together. So I'm just focusing on what the bigger changes are. So these are the ones that seem to have the most change. And if I'm looking at this, I'm realizing, okay, I don't consider 9,000 drop in the year to be that big a drop. So that tells me that it's not a single item problem, or maybe a little bit, this 9,000. It's more of a general decline is what that tells me. And you could also look at it as a scattered chart, which is very cool, because if it's in the green, it was an increase. If it's in the red, it was a decrease. And then I have my average line listed right here. So you could see item number 1098 or 1078. That probably was not listed in here. Interesting. Oh, maybe because that is the change difference, perhaps. Yeah, that was only $2,000 difference. But a lot of revenue, high revenue for 2018. So that was actually that one might make a big deal, be a big deal, something we want to look at. If I come back, I could probably see it listed as one of these two. Maybe that one. No. Yeah, that one, the change wasn't that great. Oh, now it's going to be a little. There's also stacked bar charts. Let me see if I can get to a stacked bar chart. And then there's also a ribbon chart. And if you don't have a lot, I love ribbon charts. If you have too much, it's a little hard for me to read. But these are all potential explain buys. I could also right mouse click here and find where the distribution is different. Now this one's pretty powerful because now I'm looking at individual items. And so let's see. Oh, no, this is the number of records. So in this case, the number of sales. So you could see for 10% of records. So I could see the record number, and I need to quit moving around so much. But right now I'm looking at the gray area is the actual sales, but I'm looking at it just to compare proportions, not to look at it as it actually occurred. Let me try to close this out and reopen it so that, and I'll quit clicking around so much. Okay, so I'm looking at it proportionately. If I want to see the actual numbers, now I can see my actual sales. And you'll notice that, at least in this part, you can see it mimics that. And then now I'm looking at the sales just for 18. Oh, I guess cost. Not sure exactly what that one's comparing. Oh, class name. This one's better, knits. So we're looking at knits. The knits, I'm seeing proportionally what the knits have done compared to. And if I look right here, it's like, wow, they don't seem like our sales went up a tad there, but our knits did not. But our knits went way up here. So we're doing better than overall average of all of our sales. So these are some really powerful ones. If you went the other way, like here is an increase, you're going to see, and I won't go through these, explain the increase and find out where the distribution is different. So these are some pretty powerful ways of looking at and analyzing data that not enough people pay attention to or even notice it's there. I was talking with someone recently and I'm like, let's stop and focus on the drill down charts. I think this is something that a lot of people think, oh, got it. And then they think beyond that, they're like, oh, I'm not going to go any further. But let's take a little bit closer look at some of these. And these are things that if we help people learn about them, then they will start analyzing better. So here I'm looking at all my sales, and I just put a bunch of tables across the bottom for each thing I have in my visual. So if I were to come back to, let me.
Hi, Belinda. Just while you do that, is it okay for us to pose a couple of questions to you, please?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So, Pragati, would you like to take this first one?
Yeah, so I think Ian is asking here, Belinda, can Q&A work across data sources? So basically it intelligently knows which data source to query.
A Q&A will work with, yes, your entire, I'm going to use the appropriate word now, semantic data model, or your entire data model. It doesn't work with just a single report, which is why having your relationship set up is critical. So here, this is basically my little star scheme. I just have 3 points. I have my sales, I have my rating table, my date, and the clothing, this is the clothing master. So it's using all of these things. So it doesn't matter where, just like everything else in Power BI, it will read everything within the data model. You'll recall one thing that's been out for basically ever is, I'm going to come in. I didn't put in a table or a I'll spit it out in a moment. I didn't put in a dashboard. So let me go back to the report here and find a visual. I'm just going to grab this one. I'm going to pin it to a dashboard. All right, now I have a dashboard. It's not in my app, but all the dashboards come with, oh, I did have a dashboard. I just didn't include it. Okay, all the dashboards have always come with that ask a question about your data option. And these are the same questions that you would get here, but you basically can get the same visual, Q&A visual that you could do across whatever data is in your dashboard. So here, it's not going to connect unrelated data together, but if you have just actually it's a good way if you have like one date to use a dashboard, because right now my recommendation for dashboards is when you have multiple reports in your system that are looking at different data models or different semantic data models, then at that point you can, it's a way of getting visuals from multiple reports onto the same page. For use that each report can only use one data model or data set, so this one can, a dashboard could go across those, so you could look at that. But part of that is asking the Q&A, being able to use the Q&A feature as well. And if you do use the Q&A feature, you can actually add that to your dashboard. So if I put this in and store by satisfaction, let's put that in. Okay, so now this is something that I like. I could still pin this Q&A visual to my dashboard, and now it is something I could use on my dashboard as well. And so that's pretty powerful. It just won't be able to create relationships for you. So if you have disparate data models in there, it's going to treat them disparately.
Thanks, Belinda.
Mm-hmm.
Leon, can you take up the next one?
Yeah,
absolutely. Just to put on that as well. So Oliver mentioned in the chat that the data will need to be in the data model for Q&A to be aware of it as well. Fernando has very kindly, Belinda, because I share your pain with the on visuals functionality now. He mentions the Q&A setup with synonyms appeared when he clicked on the settings gear icon on the top right of the Q&A visual.
Okay, so yeah, it's not giving me that in these.
That's fine. I think it's in reference to the Q&A visual.
He's laughing at me going, well, Belinda, that's because you don't have, yeah, I was looking for the gear and I just don't see it. So yeah.
One for another day. Absolutely fine.
Yes. Actually, it might be under more options. I don't know, but yes. for sure. Oh,
excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
That's all of the questions we have at the moment, Belinda.
Yes.
Thank you.
You, Fernando. He's my dear friend. So, okay. All right. So, yes, you can put that in there. And what were we talking about? Oh, the drill through chart. Okay. Yes. So I want to point out something about how this one works. So let's go back to the report here. And here I have my report. And as you can see, yeah, I can zoom a little bit. You can see I've got my drill through here. Now, we all know you could turn drill down on by clicking on it. And then if you click on like 2018, you're seeing 2018 for the next level. So you're seeing 2018 for that next level. Now, what will happen if that's not turned on and I click on this view next generation right here? If I click on that, I am now seeing all of my sales. So let me go back up to the top. You can see my total sales is 1.8. It's the same for everything. If I turn this on and click on 2018, I'm now just looking at my 2018 sales. Turn that back off, go back up. 177. This time I'm just going to click on the double arrow. And now I'm still looking at all my sales, but I'm looking at it as the next level in its entirety. So now all of the other visuals on the page are acting as if this was. So I have one visual that is taking care of all of this information by just going down my levels. And it's not changing my visualizations at all. So if I click now, that's the ending one. I definitely end up, but that is something that enough people don't know about. And so they should understand that, because it's a way, if you want to do something a little bit different, you're like, okay, I want to analyze by department name. So now I've got dresses here, and now I can come over and say, you know what, I'm interested in 2015, and I want to see the people who said they must have it. And oh, I'm not holding my key down when I select these. So let me go back. What was I choosing? Dresses. So now I'm looking at across, like you could see it's 20, the combined thing is 29.4, 29.4, 29.4, 29.4. If I go back to 2018, it's ones, yeah. So you could see that, and of course I don't have these sorted correctly. So you always want to make sure you have things sorted right. There you go. Okay. Actually, that is sorted by sales. I want that sorted by year. And there you go. Okay. So that ability to multi-select and just use that drill down is powerful. Now, another thing that's powerful about this, and I know I'm jumping ahead of myself a little bit. So let me do that again. I'm going to select 2018. I'm going to select dresses, and I'm going to select must have. Now, if I click on this, whoops, there we go. Oh, wait a minute, my bad. Let me go back. Dresses, must have, because I have things selected. I'm going to have to right mouse click here. And then now I can show it as a table, and I can see any of the detail that would pertain as a table for this if I had more data involved in it. While I'm at that, let me go ahead and not click on the drill there. Well, no, not going to be able to do that with the drill through. I'll stick in order. Not going to go out of order, but that's a really important element for individuals to use. Another thing, just similar to the Power BI Q&A, is personalization visuals. And this has been out here a long time. If you have a really good data model, this is something you might want to turn on for people. All you have to do to turn it on is go to options, file options, or click on the cog in the latest version in the bottom right corner. Go to report settings. So you turn it on for one report at a time. So you go to report settings and current file, and you simply turn it on. And let's take a look at what that would look like. Okay. And you might have seen it appear already. But if I'm looking at this and I'm like, you know what, I'm not loving this. I wish I could see sales in maybe an area chart instead. And actually, I want to see a line chart, and I want to see it by date. So if I come up to the top up here, I now have this new icon, personalize this visual. And this is something you could turn off for a single visual in Power BI. So if you have a visual that's important, you don't want anyone to ever change it, then you could turn it off there. So I'm going to click on that, and now I could change the report type, the visualization type. And this is great for users who want to evaluate on their own, because it's like, okay, I have total sales and I have all these things on my x-axis. I don't want all of these. So I'm going to remove most of these. Actually, I'm going to remove them all. And I want to add a new field. So I'll click on that. I'll go to my calendar. I'll get the date. And now I see a line chart for my visual. And I'm quite happy with this. So this is pretty cool. I could, if I wanted to, make it small multiples or add an additional field for, I'm going to come in and add in gross margin. So at any point in time I hover, I can get my gross margin. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. And you can see I get sales and gross margin now. I could still click on an individual day and it'll bring me to that day. So this is a really, I think, another powerful way to look, to give users some freedom in what they're looking at and how they're looking at it. And so again, you could turn this off. What you would do is, if I come to here, and I don't want someone to be able to edit, let's say, this chart, or maybe age, because that's important to us. What I'm going to do is go to the format option. And in the format option, I'm going to find the visualization or personalization, rather. Was it under property? Okay. Let me go to personalization. And I'm going to under icons and turn that off. And without the icon, they can't get to the personalization. So that's all you have to do in order to turn it off. But this kind of power really helps users explore more. And not only, you notice I even change data. So it doesn't even have to be, they could be building it using something else entirely. And so that's a pretty big deal. And yes, I know I should be using a drop down for my year. When you do a vertical list like this, you are slowing down your performance. So you should never have it. Everything should always be a drop down. Okay. And let me go back. Smart narratives, another AI visual that is easy for users to use. And I love it not only for text, but I love it for our visuals. I love it for text as well. So let me come back into my smart narrative page. So what you would want to do on a smart narrative page, actually, let me come in here and do it this way. On a smart narrative page, it's just, again, under insert, there's a smart narrative visual, but there's also a visual, a way for you to add in your own visual as well. So if I wanted to add in the smart narrative, I'm going to find my AI visuals. And by the way, anytime you see a light bulb, you know AI is at play. So keep that in mind. So what it's going to do is read everything that's in my system right now. And so if you want to add something, and it is interactive, so that's out of the box. It will not change now, but here I can press any year I want and I get the text. Now this is really good for old school people who are new at analyzing, because they still have a little bit of text they could deal with. And if you wanted to add some of your own, you could say, sales for let's see, sales for I could do that. Let me do this. What are total, no, not what, don't want to ask it there. total sales for this year is, oh, no, I know what I wanted to show. The customer with the highest, the item class with the highest sales is, and then now what I'm going to do is this pop-up menu. There's a plus sign on the previous version, but now you've got add this dynamic value. This is just Q&A again. So this also uses that important data modeling. So I could say top item or top class, if you spell it right, for total sales. And that nymph waste was actually something that somebody wrote in the, there it is. Oh, that's the top class. So what I want to say is, what is the class, item class? I forgot the name of the field. The item class name, the top item class name, so basically, and let me get rid of that word class name. That's, I would have to use the tooling tip to help me fix that. Oh, that is a good way I could have done it too. Okay, so what's the top class name? Let's see if we can. Let's change this to, oh, it was set as a number first. So let me start that over. What is the top class name by total, for total sales? Okay. And well, that is hysterical. What is it? Okay. I am not sure why it is not pulling it up. It's giving me other options to try. Well, let's try it a different way. What item sells the most? This is why it's so important. Oh, that was right. It was item number 18. So now I can see the one with the highest class. Now, again, to get some of these, that one is hard-coded. So I might not, oh, no, there you go. When I went to Indements, it was 19. When I went to General, it's 18. General's 18. Accessories, 23. Okay, so I got it right. So this is something very powerful. Another thing is to put it in text box for like titles. And this is to make a title explanatory and not just descriptive. Because when you add just a regular text box, like insert text box, you still get the same option here. And now I'm just going to put in a call on a DAX function I created. And I'm going to add that in and come on. Oh, I got the word spelled wrong. I put data range instead of date range. And now when it's blue and underlined, it tells me it should find that date range. There we go. I'm going to select it. And show date range. Why not that? I don't know why I am struggling with this. This is from using the, let me show you. It should be out there. But, oh, let me just do it this way. We'll do selected a division name. There we go. There we go. Accessories. So I'll save that. So one of the things you could watch, and I'll get it in. I can't believe that is not working for me. Okay, so if I select general, then it'll change. Normally I put in date range, and the date range, let me come in and click on this again, pull this back up, and let me try date range one more time. I must not have the data type right. Okay, I'm not going to worry about that. I'll just pout a little bit. But anyhow, if I put in a date range field there to make it a little more descriptive, and what that would look like is this. So instead of just sales, I have this date range. So what I do is I start, I get the smallest date used and then the maximum date, and then I'll return, just concatenate that. And then it gives me something that looks like this. This is much more explanatory to people than seeing two different fields. And you could do a lot of really cool things with it. So if you use the selected value option, you could actually even have it say all items. Two, I'm not going to demo right now for you, are the decomp tree and the key influencer. I think a lot of people know about those. That's when they started thinking about them. Because I think we're probably right on time. Do we have time?
We are on time, Belinda. We do have a couple of questions coming in as well.
Okay. Here is, I'll just end it like this. I love those. Use those for sure. But tables and matrices, use them sparingly, hide when possible. Use the button. Use a button to pull it back up if you can. Use it for drill through. Use the data point table. It's in a slide. Paginated reports in the app. Excel reports in the app. Instead of building it, just put an Excel report in the app and let them look at it that way if that's what they want to see. If you must, then always add the visual in. So that's all I'm gonna show before, but I do have some other ideas and ways of evaluating that, giving that same data with as the detail. Okay, what's the questions?
Excellent. So let's go with the first question. So there's actually been quite a lot of discussion, Belinda, in the chat around personalization of visuals. Yeah. So Fernando mentioned that he had quite a slightly skewed opinion on letting final users change the visuals. He likes to set the report as they agreed upon and leave it as that, whilst Ben Howard, hi Ben, has mentioned, I don't always think personalization of visuals is a good idea. Typically, if users are doing a lot of personalization, it smacks of a lack of initial report definition and consultation. So happy to open this up to a bit of a discussion point here. Yeah, those are really good discussion points. But here's the thing. One of the things we have to think about is when Microsoft talks about Power BI being self-service, we really want individuals to be able to analyze their data. And it is not a sign, if they're using visualization, it is not a sign that they're not finding your reports particularly useful. It's a sign that they're looking for answers, and looking for answers is a good thing. It's something that we must do. And so I'm a big advocate of it. I mean, you could get a little bit of control if you use, there are ways you could use Tabular Editor 2, which is been told it will always be free, open source, but you can create, oh gosh, now I forgot exactly what they're called. Maybe someone will remember. But basically you could create like rules around it, like for, this personalization, or if someone uses this personalization, these are only data options they have access to. And so you can control it by that. But we want people looking at data. In my opinion, we want people exploring their data. When they explore their data, they can get, they're trying to let the data talk to them, and they're not typically reading a big table.
I think that's valuable. I mean, does any, let's go with who disagrees with that in the chat, Leon.
So, I mean, Oliver mentions that he likes it. Often person A wants certain data or a certain order, etc., and person B wants something completely opposite. In terms of some historic or some context for me, so we have used this type of solution previously with personalization for our clients. But what we tend to do is have a dedicated self-service environment for a group of users as opposed to all users. So I agree with both perspectives that there's definitely power in having this available to certain educated or power users, shall we say, to do analysis. But I also think that potentially opening up to all individuals, depending on the organization, can create a bit of chaos and potentially misinterpretation of data, depending on their skill set.
Well, you could take baby steps. You could do the my chart with the Q&As.
Absolutely.
That's a baby step. And then you know what people are asking. Unless they're selecting your predefined questions, if you go in and type a question, so I might want to come in and say, here is where I might want to do it. Top class name by division. Name, and I did not get the right let me do this. Let's do total sales by class name and division name. Yeah, I mean, similar results. I respect if someone is really unsure about it, and you don't want to give it to people who are a little bit wild or new at it. So by wild, I mean willing to go in and do all kinds of things. But but I think, yeah, this is a good alternative here.
Yeah, I agree. And Pragati, any thoughts at all?
No, I think I have a very similar view to this. I mean, obviously, personalized visuals actually give you a lot of capabilities, right? You can actually give more control to users, but I think I agree on both the sides. Like in some scenarios, that personalization visual could be like a very strong thing you're giving to the users to, personalize things from their own perspective. But in some cases, you might just like to go with, like, say, standard reports or dashboards, wherever, the requirement is like that. So I think I have both kind of views there, not like in one way, in that side.
I will say it's technology, and in technology, every rule has an exception. So if I say this is the best practice, it doesn't mean it's the best practice.
No, definitely. I think we all have tweaked best practices in many ways, right? Sometimes it works, but sometimes it doesn't work. But I really like the way you showed, Belinda, like how Q&A can be really important here. Like, suppose if you really don't want to go with the personalized visual scenario, right, you can actually build this Q&A. I really loved this part of your presentation today. Everything was good, but this was like a highlight for me, the way you showed the different, use cases where we can use this Q&A feature. This is amazing.
It's also great. I'm sorry, Leon, that's twice I've interrupted you, but it's, so my apologies, but I'm going to go ahead and get this one little spill out. It's also good prep work for Copilot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes, the Copilot is on the tip of everyone's tongue at the moment. And just to echo Pragati's sentiments there as well, Belinda. So what was really key for me in terms of this session, we'll just get on to Ben's last question in a moment as well, is some of the tips and tricks that exist on some of the existing visuals. So for example, I wasn't a big a user of the additional bar chart functionality, so that's something that's really going to resonate with our audience as well there. So absolutely fantastic. And then, just like I mentioned, a question from Ben coming in the Power BI service, and the newest feature is explore the data. Have you had much use of that, Belinda, and do you see customers using it currently?
I haven't played around with it enough to give any kind of answer for that. Yeah, so yeah, I can't. I'm sorry. I wish I could give you something, but between moving and there we go. I'm gonna pull up the Q&A visual this way. I don't know, or add this one. I thought usually you could pull this up. Oh, hang on, external tool. Nope. I haven't had a chance to play with it enough, to be honest with you, to make a comment one way or another. So sorry about
No,
that.
that's absolutely fine. And like we say, I think it would be absolutely fantastic, Belinda, to have you back with us again in the future, to go through this in a bit more detail. I feel like there's another session in here as well, especially with fantastic content that's going to help, because as we were saying beforehand, Power BI is very much a powerful data analysis tool in the right hands and capable hands. And I think that spreading that message out there is something that needs to be done, definitely.
I agree. I totally agree. Oh, maybe it's under optimize. It's
Excellent.
killing me that I don't know where that is.
It's
No
fine.
problem. It's a blog post waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the new on object interactions is tricky. I mean, I just forget most of the stuff while using it.
It is very tricky, and
It is.
And I do like it for the most part. It definitely is tricky. So
that can be a topic of discussion, I guess, Leon. We should just
absolutely.
I'm
not going to give my
have a
thoughts
session. Yeah, I mean, have people as a table talk and discuss on object feature in Power BI.
Exactly. I think it's a session that's dying to happen. I'm sure something that will get a lot of comments as well. But Belinda, like I say, I really want to thank you very much for joining us for today's session. Absolutely fantastic material, and appreciate you joining us when you're A, under the weather, and B, celebrating Thanksgiving as well. So please do ensure that you get lots of food and that nap that you mentioned as well after the food.
I will.
Excellent. Thank you, Belinda.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody for joining us as well today. It's been an absolute pleasure to be back with you at the Microsoft Fabric UK user group. We do have a lot of amazing content headed your way. We can't discuss it just yet, but please do watch this space for some more announcements and some more content coming to you across the next few months as well. So thank you, Pragati,
trust
as well.
me, and trust me, guys, amazing sessions are coming in, and we have got amazing people coming in next few months. So keep an eye on our LinkedIn webpage. I mean, you'll see some good content coming through for you.
Absolutely. And just remember, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you've been here with us at the Microsoft Fabric UK user group.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.